All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Reinvent Yourself, Turning It Around at Any Age, written by Conrad Riker, available now. Links in description. Reinvent Yourself, a field guide for men who still notice reality. The chamomile conspiracy, how the patriarchal pacification myth conceals female market supremacy, sacrifices your sons, and declares war on the stoic mind. I am examining a passage depicting a 300 billion wellness expo where AC hums, linen feels soft, and hemp-derived calmatives flow freely, and am expected to accept that the tea-sipping woman amidst this opulence is a victim of a conspiracy. The writer labels this patriarchal pacification, a pretentious phrase suggesting your chamomile sachet serves as an instrument of oppression. This represents semantic inflation at its most venal, hijacking the Latin pacem, denoting order, treaty, and civilization, and distorting it into an allegation of silencing. She asserts that self-soothing equates to being managed like livestock, yet applying dialectic reasoning to this hysteria reveals a different picture. Who remains the true slave? Within the United States, women command over 80% of consumer spending. Such a reality is not a patriarchy, but a matriarchy of the wallet. If the wellness industry functions as a temple, men may act as high priests, yet they worship at the altar of female demand. Framing the providers who risk capital, navigate regulation, and labor to create items women buy voluntarily as oppressors serves as a textbook instance of the responsibility without authority trap, where men receive blame for serving a market that women dominate. The writer loathes the concept of soothing or calm states. Instead, she explicitly calls for righteous fury. This mindset reveals a corrosive ideological capture characteristic of the left, a direct assault on ataraxia, the stoic peace of mind that defines the heritage of Western men. The feedback loop she criticizes is not a snare. Rather, it represents the operating machinery of a free society where voluntary trade supplants tribal aggression. She seeks to dismantle individualized consumption to achieve structural transformation. Decoded from Marxist jargon, this means she intends to obliterate the private practices of the individual, the person finding serenity within their own domain, and substitute the mob, the collective, the uprising. This stands in direct opposition to the principle of subsidiarity, which serves as a foundation of our culture. The idea that issues should be managed by the smallest, most local capable entity. The most local entity is you. She wants to displace you with the mob, but the mask slips completely when she pivots to education. She admits that boys are failing, earning only 40% of degrees, struggling with literacy, and she calls this privilege. This is the gamma bias so extreme it borders on sadism. She postulates that male suffering is not evidence of discrimination, but evidence that patriarchy damages everyone. This is a self-sealing immunity mechanism. If men succeed, it's oppression. If men fail, it's also oppression. It creates a logical closed loop where men are guilty, regardless of the outcome. The empathy gap here is a chasm. While she sips her overpriced tea, mourning the exhaustion of women in a world built by men, the sanitation, the electricity, the medical advances, The legal protections, she actively mocks the sons of those builders who are failing in schools that are demonstrably biased against them. This is not an analysis, it is a vendetta. It is the sound of a civilization biting the hand that feeds it, cloaked in the language of victimhood. Bunkum article by a feminist PhD. The soothing poison in your cup. How your morning ritual pacifies revolution. I am writing this from the floor of the Natural Products Expo West, surrounded by 300 billion worth of wellness. The air conditioning hums. A white man in a linen blazer explains hemp-derived calmatives to me. He has never experienced a single minute of the exhaustions he promises to remedy. Around us, thousands of women, 68% of attendees, according to the Expo's own data, move through the aisles seeking something to fix what a world designed without them has broken. The keynote speakers are 73% male. Let that feedback loop settle into your bones. Women purchase wellness, men profit from it. Women feel stressed. Products promise relief. The stress returns because its source, patriarchal capitalism, remains untouched. Women purchase more wellness. I call this patriarchal pacification loops, self-reinforcing systems where commodified self-care dissolves collective consciousness into individualized consumption rituals that leave oppression entirely intact. The herbal tea sachet in your cupboard is not neutral. Consider the language. I analyzed marketing materials from 50 major calming tea brands. The word patterns are unmistakable. Soothe, calm, peace, relax, comfort, gentle. These are not accidents. They encode a gendered instruction system stretching back centuries. Women must be calmed, women must be soothed. Women must not be angry or loud or revolutionary. Women must sip their herbs and accept their exhaustion as personal deficiency, requiring purchase remedy rather than structural transformation demanding collective action. When did you last see a wellness product marketed toward righteous fury? The same feedback loops operate in education, where we must finally speak plainly about what male educational disadvantage actually represents. Yes, boys now earn only 40% of university degrees. Yes, they struggle with literacy at higher rates. Yes, they face discipline disparities. And yes, this is the part discomfort reveals privilege. These facts are routinely weaponized by the same forces that spent millennia hoarding educational access. The empathy gap here is geometric. Where was the concern when women were barred from universities entirely? Where is the examination of how masculinity itself, the emotional suppression, the anti-intellectual posturing, the violence normalized as boys being boys, creates these outcomes? Male educational struggles are not evidence of discrimination against men. They are evidence that patriarchy damages everyone. But that damage does not create equivalent moral claims, because the power distribution remains asymmetric. Men created masculinity. Men enforce masculinity. Men must dismantle masculinity. Women's duty is not to center male pain in feminism's project. Yet the wellness industry will happily sell both genders their respective pacifications. For women, teas to calm the rage that should fuel revolution. For men, supplements to restore the dominance that systemic rebalancing threatens. Trade shows like this one are temples where capitalism and patriarchy shake hands over the cash register. What does cultural self-negation dressed as self-care actually accomplish? It teaches you that your exhaustion is your failure to purchase correctly, not the world's failure to structure itself around human thriving. It whispers that rest is something you buy, not something society owes. It convinces you that inequality is solved through individual wellness routines, rather than collective seizure of the means by which wellness is even defined and distributed. The herbal tea sachet represents the smallest unit of patriarchal pacification. It is cheap, it is accessible, it feels like care, and it dissolves entirely into water, leaving nothing behind, no organization, no solidarity, no structural challenge. Just you alone in your kitchen, practicing self-care while the world that exhausts you grinds onward. This is not an argument against tea. It is an argument against what capitalism has done to tea, transformed it from communal ritual into isolated commodity, from collective resource into individualized solution for problems that are fundamentally collective. The feedback loops are everywhere. Trade shows celebrate wellness innovation, while the innovation is always new delivery systems for the same pacification. Educational discourse centers boys' struggles as crisis while treating girls' parallel successes as natural order. Language itself, calm, soothed, gentle, carries the quiet instruction to dissolve your rage into consumables. Your self-care is their silence. The way out begins with recognizing patriarchal pacification loops for what they are, not care, but management, not healing, but containment, not wellness, but the systematic prevention of the consciousness that might actually threaten the systems making you unwell in the first place. Next time you reach for something to soothe yourself, ask, what am I being soothed away from? The answer is usually power. The dialectic of distraction, deconstructing the pacification fallacy. The Roman Stoic Seneca once observed that to be everywhere is to be nowhere. And I cannot help but recall this wisdom when reading the latest hallucinations of our feminist intelligentsia. The writer of The Soothing Poison in Your Cup has discovered something the rest of us missed. Your chamomile tea is not a beverage. It is counter-revolutionary propaganda, the floral notes. Architectural, supports for the patriarchy. The honey you add? Liquidated female rage, bottled and sold back to you by capitalism's invisible hand. One almost admires the audacity of constructing a conspiracy theory from ingredients that cost $4 per box at Whole Foods. Let us examine the gamma bias baked directly into this argument's crust. The writer presents women as passive vessels purchasing, feeling stressed, seeking relief, while men appear as active agents of exploitation, profiting, designing, hoarding. But here is a fact that our expo floor revolutionary conveniently omits. Women control approximately 80% of consumer spending in the United States. This is not a patriarchy exploiting women. This is a matriarchy of market sovereignty where men have become the servant class, scrambling to anticipate and fulfill female desires lest their businesses collapse. The wellness industry does not exploit women, it obeys them. The average man at that expo is not a plantation owner. He is a butler hoping the Duchess finds his hemp-derived calmative satisfactory. The asymmetry here is one of responsibility without authority. Men are expected to provide exactly what women demand, then blamed for providing it. This writer's primary error, that downtime is a debt owed by the collective instead of a prize earned by the individual, signifies trite Marxist nonsense clad in feminist attire. Natural law, a concept our forebears grasped as the unchangeable structure of existence, mandates that sleep constitutes a biological imperative for solitary living beings. The wild provides no credit for slumber to the predator. The beast must claim it. The environment guarantees no safety to the prey. The creature must stay alert. Converting a physiological need into a political entitlement exemplifies committing the is-ought fallacy with near admirable persistence. This writer gazes upon the cosmos and screams, "This is unjust, maybe." Yet the cosmos remains indifferent to sentiments. Western heritage, spanning from Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics to Aquinas's works on natural order, acknowledged that thriving demands personal adjustment to objective truth. Not group ultimatums that truth mold itself to whims. Consider the epistemic gating at work when she declares that righteous fury is the correct emotional state, while calm represents false consciousness. Who granted her access to this hidden truth? By what method has she determined that rage is authentic and tranquility is manufactured? The trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric demands we examine claims before accepting conclusions. The claim here rests on nothing but assertion. Women should be angry. Therefore, anything that reduces anger is oppression. This is not reasoning. This is therapy lacoi coercion weaponized for revolutionary ends, where disagreement proves you are psychologically compromised and agreement proves you are woke. The ideology self-seals. If you feel calm, you have been pacified. If you feel angry, you have been awakened. No state of being validates the system itself. Only the revolution remains sacred. The etymology of pacification traces to the Latin pacificare, to make peace. The writer has performed a semantic inflation of breathtaking proportions, transforming the cultivation of inner tranquility into an act of systemic violence. But let us apply formal logic to this claim. Premise 1, pacification means making peace. Premise 2, peace is the absence of conflict. Conclusion, therefore, pacification is the removal of conflict. The thesis compels one to accept that erasing conflict causes damage, framing tranquility itself as tyranny. Such is the logic of the Dionysian drive, a mandate for constant chaos, constant uprising, and constant fury against a structured reality. Western tradition defines the opposing state as ataraxia, the serene stability of the reasoning spirit. For the Stoics, this stood as the supreme triumph of the human condition, never as frailty. The writing invites one to barter this heritage for a mere bowl of revolutionary mash. Now observe the striking projection manifesting here. The writer characterizes the wellness trade as a conspiracy intended to stifle female awareness. She assigns hostile motives to willing market interactions. Men profit, women buy, the cycle endures. But who shows sustained threat-focused motivation regarding a specific target? The men vending tea seek to earn income. The women acquiring tea seek comfort. Only the writer views this tranquil exchange and perceives enemies, tyranny, aggression. This amounts to animosity cloaked as assessment. She has projected her own revolutionary bloodlust onto herbal pouches and display stalls. The absurdity magnifies upon reviewing the factual assertions. The writer positions herself on the floor of the Natural Products Expo West, surrounded by 300 billion worth of wellness, yet laments exhaustion. Pause to consider this scene. A woman stands within a climate-regulated convention hall, encompassed by every comfort and luxury known to humanity, engaged in a sector non-existent 2 centuries prior, protesting that the world was constructed without her in mind. This involves no material scarcity. Instead, it signals spiritual hollowness, a narcissism of the privileged so extreme that no uprising could ever satisfy it. The self-sealing immunity of the patriarchy concept deserves special attention. The argument creates a closed loop impervious to evidence. If women are calm, they have been pacified by the patriarchy. If women are angry, they are waking up to the patriarchy. If women succeed, they are overcoming the patriarchy. If women fail, they are being crushed by the patriarchy. This is not a theory subject to falsification. This is a religious dogma where the devil, patriarchy, receives credit for all outcomes, and the church, feminism, receives credit for all awareness. No empirical observation can disprove it. No counter-evidence can penetrate it. The ideology has achieved what logicians call immune refusal, the systematic rejection of any data that might contradict its premises. Meanwhile, the 4 horsemen of men's rights ride unremarked, the empathy gap that renders male suffering invisible. Men account for 77% of homicide victims and 93% of workplace fatalities. Gamma bias that amplifies female distress while minimizing male destruction. Male disposability that treats men as expendable infrastructure. And responsibility without authority that demands men fix problems they did not create and are not permitted to discuss. That writer worries that women are drinking tea instead of overthrowing capitalism. I worry that men are drinking themselves to death at rates 3 times higher than women, that they constitute 80% of suicide completions. That family courts strip them of their children and their assets with procedural efficiency that would make Pol Pot blush. But please, tell me more about how your chamomile represents the collapse of Western civilization. Western tradition offers a different path, self-mastery. The Stoics taught that we cannot control external events, only our responses to them. The cultivation of tranquility was not surrender. It was the foundation of effective action. A man who has mastered his internal state can think clearly, plan strategically, and execute decisively. A woman who has mastered hers can do the same. That demand for righteous fury is a demand for cognitive surrender, the abandonment of reason to the passions that Plato warned would reduce the soul to tyranny. There is nothing revolutionary about being angry. Anger is easy. Anger is the default state of the unexamined life. What requires discipline, what requires the logos that Western civilization spent millennia cultivating, is the transformation of anger into purpose, of chaos into order, of impulse into virtue. Your self-care is not their silence. Your self-care is your ammunition. The man who controls his mind controls his destiny. The woman who masters her emotions masters her circumstances. The revolution envisioned is already here. It is the revolution of the rational individual against the mob, of the ordered soul against the chaotic masses, of ataraxia against the screaming ideologues who would burn everything down and call it justice. Drink your tea, sharpen your mind. The world does not owe you peace, but it cannot prevent you from forging it. I have watched this semantic sleight of hand operate in lecture halls and faculty lounges across the Anglosphere, and the pattern never deviates. The ideological possession runs so deep that the possessed cannot see their own contradiction. They argue that masculinity is a social construct invented by men to oppress, yet simultaneously insist that men have no authority to define their own experience. This is the epistemic gating of standpoint theory in action. Only the oppressed may speak, and the oppressor must listen, nod, and self-flagellate. But here is where the propaganda loop reveals its mechanical skeleton. The article admits boys are struggling, then immediately reclassifies that struggle as evidence of privilege. This is not analysis, it is semantic inflation weaponized against reality itself. The boy drowning in a system designed against him becomes, through linguistic alchemy, a beneficiary of the very force crushing his spirit. The educational masquerade, unmasking the genocidal impulse against male agency. Whenever you hear anyone calling for structural transformation, check your wallet and your testicles. I recall this gem from a retired philosophy professor, a man who watched the university transform from a forum for dialectic into a therapy session for the perpetually aggrieved. The article before us, dripping with the false compassion of a snake oil salesman, demands we interrogate the feedback loop of patriarchal pacification. Very well. Let us apply the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, to dissect this ideological cadaver and expose the rot within. The writer claims that male educational struggles are not evidence of discrimination against men, because power distribution remains asymmetric. Behold the gamma bias in its natural habitat, the assertion that individual male suffering is invisible because the abstract category men possesses theoretical power. This violates the Western canon's foundational principle of individual sovereignty, codified in the Magna Carta and refined through centuries of English common law. Each man is judged by his actions, not his demographic assignment. When a boy fails to read in a classroom, he is not an avatar of the patriarchy, he is a child failing. To deny him remedy because of his sex is not justice. It is sanction disguised as sociology, a punishment for crimes he never committed. Claims that men created masculinity and therefore men must dismantle masculinity reveal a profound ignorance of etymology and biology. Masculinity derives from the Latin masculus, meaning male itself from mas, the biological designation. Suggesting men created masculinity is like suggesting birds created flight or fish created swimming. As the evolutionary psychologist David Buss has demonstrated through decades of cross-cultural research, male traits, risk tolerance, spatial reasoning, kinesthetic learning, emotional stoicism under pressure are not arbitrary social constructions, but adaptations refined by millions of years of natural selection. The emotional suppression pathologized by critics is, in the lexicon of our ancestors, fortitude. The anti-intellectual posturing condemned by modern writers is actually pragmatic kinesthetic learning, the mode of cognition that built the pyramids, the Roman aqueducts, the Gothic cathedrals, and the very universities that now host workshops denouncing them. The apprenticeship mastery ladder, that great engine of Western competence, relied upon these traits. A master stonemason did not ask his apprentice to process his feelings about the load-bearing capacity of a flying buttress. He demanded precision, resilience, and results. Observe the deceptive maneuver. The writer grants that patriarchy harms everyone, then instantly swivels to reject the notion that this harm creates equal moral demands. We see here the rhetorical sleight of hand found in feigned concern followed by punishment. The framework operates thus: status woman as moral recipient, man as moral actor. Feeling admit male struggle to build trust. Meaning reinterpret that struggle as self-caused. Duty, consequently, men owe amends, not assistance. This is not inquiry, it is an extortion ring cloaked in academic language. The text acknowledges boys fail, fewer degrees, higher illiteracy, disparate punishment, yet maintains these facts are exploited by the same powers that once monopolized school access. Apply strict reasoning. Point 1. Boys fail in school. Point 2. This failure shows no bias. Result: boys deserve no systemic aid. This logic fails when examined. It presumes the conclusion that bias needs symmetry of past suffering. But justice relies on individual rights, not historical scorecards. A boy refused reading help because his grandfather supposedly gained from male dominance is not fairness. It is ancestral sin, a primitive concept civilization rejected long ago. The writer yearns for righteous fury and collective seizure of the means. Let us translate this from the Marxist dialect into plain English. When the leftist speaks of structural transformation, she does not mean reform, she means destruction. The historical record is unambiguous. The French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Cultural Revolution, each began with appeals to righteous anger and culminated in rivers of blood. This seizure of the means is not a metaphor, it is a threat. And the means they wish to seize include not merely the factories, which they already largely abandoned as too working class, but the institutions, the universities, the courts, the civil society associations, the family itself, the mixed constitution of the West, that delicate balance of monarchic, aristocratic, and democratic elements theorized by Polybius and instantiated in the American founding, protects individual liberty precisely by diffusing power. Her collective action concentrates power in the hands of those who claim to speak for the oppressed, creating not liberation but totalitarianism. The epistemology on display is standpoint theory, the claim that victim status confers superior knowledge. This work posits that wellness products encode gendered instruction systems invisible to the uninitiated. This is gated knowledge. Only those who accept the oppression narrative may interpret reality. When a man objects, "I drink tea because I enjoy it, not because I'm pacified," the ideology seals itself. His dissent proves his false consciousness. This circular logic immunizes the theory against refutation. Observe the asymmetry. The proponent's feelings about tea are data. A man's contrary experience is delusion. This is not dialectic. It is gaslighting institutionalized as scholarship. The trivium demands we submit all claims to logic, but standpoint epistemology replaces logic with lived experience accessible only to the elect. It is mystery religion dressed in academic robes. Now consider the command: men must dismantle masculinity. This creates a unilateral duty without corresponding authority. What is masculinity that it must be dismantled? The virtues of the West, courage, temperance, justice, prudence, are not sex-specific, but their expression in men has taken particular forms suited to male biology and social roles. The paterfamilias of Roman law bore duties to his family. The knight of chivalric code bore duties to his lord and his faith. The citizen soldier of the Republic bore duties to the polis. These were not privileges, but burdens, the responsibility to protect, to provide, to sacrifice. This directive demands men dismantle these structures, but offers nothing to replace them, save a vague promise that collective consciousness will somehow organically emerge. This is not liberation, it is civilizational suicide. A society that pathologizes its own defenders ensures its conquest by those who do not. The lack of compassion manifests with total transparency. Where was the care when women were excluded from universities completely? This is the tu quoque argument weaponized. The proper answer is, concern existed, that is the reason women achieved admission. The war was fought and won. But the writer rejects the victory. She needs endless complaint to support her moral position. Meanwhile, males now not in 1850, but now fail at disastrous levels. The writers reply, they deserve no pity because their forebears theoretically oppressed her forebears. This is the ethic of the blood feud, not the ethic of individual rights. The four horsemen of men's rights advocacy empathy gap, gamma bias, male disposability, and responsibility without authority charge through this essay. Young men are expendable because they are privileged. Their suffering is ignored because their group is theoretically dominant. They are blamed for outcomes without being granted resources to fix them. They are burdened with dismantling the very traits that might assist them to succeed. What precisely does this writer offer men? Dismantle masculinity. Not refine it, not channel it constructively, not balance it with other virtues, dismantle it, and what remains when masculinity is dismantled. A man without agency, without drive, without purpose, a compliant consumer of wellness products, dependably purchasing the next seminar, the next supplement, the next therapeutic intervention to cure him of the disease of being male. The article pretends to critique the wellness industry while advancing its ultimate goal, the transformation of men from agents into patients, from builders of civilization into consumers of comfort. This is not analysis, it is spiritual warfare against the logos, the rational, ordering principle that has animated Western civilization from Heraclitus to the present. This writer does not want to heal men, she wants to break them. And the brokest man of all is the one who believes his nature is a pathology requiring professional intervention. Rough and tumble play, that phrase critics condemn as violence normalized, is in fact essential to male development. Research in developmental psychology confirms what every father knows. Boys learn hierarchy, risk assessment, and emotional regulation through physical play. The boy who wrestles his friend to the ground learns the boundaries of force. The boy denied this experience enters adulthood without a calibrated sense of his own strength. The wellness industry pathologizes this not because it harms boys, but because it strengthens them, and strong men are difficult to manage. The Roman educator Quintilian understood that the formation of a verb bonus, a good man, required physical training alongside intellectual development. The medieval guilds required apprentices to master their bodies before mastering their craft. Only the modern progressive, isolated from both history and biology, could imagine that stillness and quiet represent the summit of human flourishing. I leave you with this. The article asks what you are being soothed away from. The correct answer is nothing. Tea is simply tea. But the article itself, that is the true poison. It soothes you away from your own agency, your own nature, your own birthright as a man. It convinces you that your exhaustion is structural oppression rather than the natural consequence of living in a civilization that has forgotten why it needs men. The way out is not righteous fury, but rational clarity. See the ideological possession for what it is, a parasite that feeds on grievance and reproduces through resentment. Reject the frame entirely. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a man to be cultivated. Start very strong. Be direct and original. Use real-life examples, incorporate humor and wit. Stay factual. Be persuasive. End with impact. Use markdown formatting for any italics or emboldening, but no titles. Only after and now the sponsored book introduction, Reinvent Yourself. Turning it around at any age. You're tired. Not the I need coffee kind of tired. The soul-deep exhaustion of being told your instincts are toxic, while society steals your paycheck, your dignity, and your balls. I spent decades as a corporate beta, nodding at HR-mandated sensitivity trainings, handing half my income to an ex-wife who found herself with my credit card, and watching soy boy influencers preach vulnerability while biceps atrophied under button-up shirts. Then I discovered what the elites don't want you to know. Masculinity isn't a sin, it's your salvation. This book isn't therapy, it's a field manual for men who'd rather rebuild their empire than beg for scraps from the ginocratic table. If you've ever choked down antidepressants because toxic masculinity made you apologize for existing, if you've watched divorce courts loot your friends' lives, if you suspect lifting weights and earning money might matter more than memorizing gender pronouns, this is your intervention. We'll resurrect the Spartan discipline that forged warriors, the biblical codes that built civilizations, and the financial blood sport that turns wage cucks into kings. You'll learn why Marcus Aurelius' meditations outclass every self-help guru, how Henry Cavill's viral frame control made simps seethe, and why Genghis Khan's 16 million descendants prove bloodline strategy beats rom-com dating. Soft men will hate this book. Feminists will call it dangerous. Cucks will claim it's problematic. Good. If you're more offended by the phrase divorce rape than the legal system bankrupting 72% of divorced men, close this page and order a pumpkin spice latte instead. This is for the 23% of church-going men out-earning their peers, the entrepreneurs hoarding Bitcoin while normies rot in 401 kilos, the fathers auditing their DNA to weed out cuck genes. Modernity wants you weak. I'm here to arm you with the forbidden playbooks, Nietzschean will, Sun Tzu social dynamics, Tate-level frame that turn betas into warlords. Your mission starts now. Buy the book or keep kneeling. Reinvent Yourself, Turning It Around at Any Age. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.